We're now ready to move on to the next major type of color management, and that's one that's scene-referred. Resolve supports two variations of scene-referred systems. One is Resolve Color Management, or RCM, and the other is ACES, or the Academy System. We're going to start with RCM. So again, what's the advantage of a scene-referred system? Well, a scene-referred system attempts to keep the values the same as they were when captured by the camera sensor. In other words, they stay in that linear color space. So that means there's no additional processing and there's no gamma correction. And this ensures higher quality as you apply your color grading and any visual effects. Another major advantage of a scene-referred system is the program itself manages the color transforms. So you can use a scene-referred system without applying LUTs, without applying DCTLs, or OFX plugins. And this makes it much easier to work. In addition, scene-referred systems make it easier to work with footage from multiple cameras. Let's give that a try. I have a brand new project here. The first thing I need to do is switch over to a scene-referred system. I'm going to go to my project settings, color management, and switch it from display referred to the DaVinci YRGB color managed, or RCM. Once you switch to RCM, you have some additional menus: input color space, timeline color space, and output color space. Input color space is the color space transform applied to all incoming clips, assuming that you don't apply a color space transform to them individually in the Media tab. We'll come back to this in a moment. Timeline color space is, once again, the color space of the timeline. This doesn't affect the view, but affects how the color controls are mapped inside the color tab. Output color space sets the final color space and what you eventually have when you render out. I'm going to leave these set to the default Rec 709 for now. Let's go ahead and save and go into RCM. Let's bring in some footage. I'm going to start with the Red 1 Mysterium shot. Go ahead and change the frame rate to match. Clip looks pretty good. Now this particular clip is actually in the RAW format, which means the data comes from the camera sensor without any additional processing or gamma correction. Resolve actually recognizes RAW shots and applies the color space transform automatically. Now this works a little bit different with RCM. Let's right mouse button click on the clip and we can see a new menu. Input color space. Now this is a bit deceiving. Because this is a raw clip, we actually do not have to select one of these camera color spaces. You could, but it'll actually have no effect on the clip. So it's best just to ignore this for now. So this already has correct interpretation, and when you use a red clip, Resolve is using the red IPP2 protocol. And IPP2 is the extra wide gamut color space that's designed for all currently existing red cameras. So this clip is good to go as is. Let's bring in another shot. This time the Alexa footage. Now this is not a raw shot. And when we take a look at it, it looks washed out as we might expect with a logarithmic piece of footage. So now let's right click on this one. And once again we have the input color space courtesy of RCM. But here we have to select the correct camera color space. In this case we can select area log C, and then we get the correct interpretation. So now these two clips are ready to go. I'll go ahead and make a new timeline. Let's make sure we have both clips in there. The color is passed on correctly. All the way to the Color tab, and eventually the Deliver tab. Now what's nice is I did not have to apply a 3D LUT or an OFX plugin, and I can go ahead and color grade at this point. Right now we're set to a Rec 709 color space. So if I do want to go to a different color space, I would have to set that through the project settings. For example, perhaps I need to go to a P3 space. I would just change the output color space. When you click Save, you can see the view changes. Now, assuming we've already done our initial pass of color grading, most we'd have to do here is a trim pass, in other words, some minor adjustments to make it appropriate for the new output color space. Let's go back to the project settings and take a look again. Now our input color space is still set to Rec 709, but that's actually ignored in this situation because, one, we have a raw clip, and the raw clips are interpreted automatically by the program, and two, we have a clip to which we applied input color space. The Alexa clip has the Area Log C color space applied to it in the Media tab, so this menu is not doing anything right now. Let's say we're working with all identical footage that was not raw, then we could set this and have that color space applied automatically to all incoming clips. And once you switch to RCM, there are a few additional options here. Limit output gamut to 2, and this will limit your color range to whatever color space you select. Now here it's simply matching the output color space, which makes sense. So now it's being matched to the P3 color space, though you could choose a different color space if you wanted to. There's also timeline to output tone mapping, and this is similar to what we saw with the OFX color space transform plugin. So here you can limit your luminance, which might be useful if you're working with a monitor that has a certain luminance range. We're going to switch to luminance mapping, and then choose the NIT or NITS luminance maximum. There's also the output gamut mapping, and this is what you can use to limit your saturation. We're going to switch to saturation mapping and choose to lower the saturation max if I want to. If you're using red footage, there's also the red IPP2 gamut mapping option, and here you can base your limits on the IPP2 protocol. Tone mapping and gamut mapping, if you choose to use those options, are of course destructive. You'll wind up clipping. But that's basically the RCM system. It allows you to quickly apply a single color space transform and be assured that the colors will look correct in the other tabs. We'll take a look at another scene referred system, and that's the ACES system, in the next video.